Chapter 8. The Dream. The night had settled over the forest, the fire's embers now reduced to glowing coals. The silence was overwhelming, broken only by the distant call of an owl and the rustling of leaves in the cool night breeze. Cale had drifted into a deep, restless sleep beneath the canopy of trees, his body exhausted from the day's strain. But his dreams were not peaceful. In the haze of slumber, he found himself standing in a misty forest, the trees towering over him like ancient giants. The air was thick with the scent of earth and something else, something intoxicating. His heart raced as the mist swirled around him, thickening with each passing moment until he could barely see his own hand in front of his face. And then, as if from nowhere, she appeared. Lysira. She stood before him, her presence undeniable, like a shadow woven from the night itself. Her black hair flowed around her, moving as if it had a life of its own. Her pale skin seemed to glow, the faintest shimmer dancing across her form. And her eyes, those deep, hypnotic eyes, were fixed on him with an intensity that made Cale's pulse quicken, even in the dream. She took a step toward him, her delicate feet barely making a sound against the forest floor. He tried to speak, to ask her what this was, but his voice was lost in the dream, like it was trapped in his throat. Lysira moved closer still, her gaze never leaving his. Slowly, her hand rose, the tips of her fingers brushing against his chest. Her touch was feather-light, but it sent a shock through him, a jolt of heat spreading across his skin. With a deliberate slowness, her fingers traced a path down his muscular chest, her touch delicate yet possessive. She moved with the grace of a predator, her eyes locked onto his as she explored the contours of his body. Every movement was calculated, every touch purposeful, as if she was savoring the moment. Cale's breath caught in his throat as her fingers brushed lower, skimming over his stomach and dipping just below his ribs, sending a wave of heat through his body. He couldn't move. He was paralyzed by the intensity of her presence, his mind torn between confusion and an overwhelming desire that burned through him. She reached the waistband of his pants, her fingers lingering there for a heartbeat longer than necessary, before slowly drawing her hand back up his chest, leaving a trail of fire in its wake. The world around them seemed to pulse with the rhythm of his heartbeat. He could feel his body responding to her, the heat of her touch seeping into his very soul. He wanted to say something, anything, but the words didn't come. Lysira's lips parted slightly, a smile curving at the corners of her mouth, though it was far from comforting. It was a smile filled with knowledge, with secrets that she was not yet ready to reveal. She leaned in, her breath warm against his ear, and whispered a single word. Soon. The dream began to fade then, the mist curling and shifting, until all that remained was the sound of his heart pounding in his chest. Lysira was gone, leaving him in the silence of the forest once again. When Cale woke, his body was drenched in sweat, his heart still racing from the dream that lingered like a phantom touch on his skin. He lay still for a moment, trying to steady his breath, to convince himself that it was just a dream. But the memory of her touch, the way her fingers had moved so deliberately across his chest, the heat of her breath, the promise of something deeper, remained with him, settling into the pit of his stomach like a weight he couldn't shake. He couldn't ignore it. There was something drawing him to her, something he couldn't fight. And as the morning light filtered through the trees, he found himself wondering if the forest would give him answers, or if it would just continue to lead him deeper into the unknown.